going on, you guys? Ras out here in Singapore, and you are listening to the Night Owl Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, it's always something, loaded that I want to talk about because honestly, I get a lot of my content from inspiration around. It could be from Netflix, it could be from music, it could be from movies that we decided to go back and watch, it could be from conversations that I've had with people. But generally speaking, they're all relevant because it deals with human emotions and human relations and how we connect to each other and discuss things. So tonight, I really want to talk about how people can and can't feel supported. And it's really interesting because it came from a TV series called Control Z. It's available on Netflix in Singapore. And we got through 1.5 episodes before I was like, yo, you know what? We need to talk about this because baby girl had a couple of questions. And I decided if you got questions, I'm pretty sure everyone else has questions. Let's do a podcast real quick. So we paused the TV series and we're back in the room recording right now. Basically, the premise is, without giving it away too much, because I do want you to go watch it if you have a chance, it is a Spanish TV series. There's only one season of it so far, and it's dealing with the different cliques in a high school and how everyone relates to each other. There's always one outsider that's noticing everything that's going on, and then you get to dig deep into some of the secrets that these people are carrying with themselves as quietly as possible. Only thing is they've been revealed to the general public, and then you get to watch how everyone kind of reacts and responds to the reveal itself. So like I said, if you have a chance, please do check it out and then message me back and let me know what you thought. But there is a concept here that I think is very, very important because I feel like it's current, it's relevant, and it happens to all of us at some point or another. So in this particular series, there is a group of very popular people. And the popular people, of course, had some kind of secret revealed about themselves to where the rest of the school the general public kind of realizes they're not as high and mighty as they thought they once were. There was such a comment put towards one of the popular girls in a bathroom situation where the girl was like, oh, she thought she was so much better than us, and now look at her because the secret has been revealed and now she's no better than the rest of us. And it just so happened that another girl came to the popular girl's rescue in order to shut the loudmouth up and said, look, you don't know what she's going through. You have no right to speak about this because, to be honest, I could make fun of you just like you're making fun of her. So she did shut up the loudmouth. The loudmouth left. But the ironic part was the popular girl took offense to the fact that this young lady was standing up for her. Why? Because when she was known as the popular girl before the secret was revealed, there was no chance in hell that this girl would have spoken to her. As a friend, as an enemy, as anything, they would have gone in their separate circles and never the twain would have met. They wouldn't have run into each other except to say, excuse me, maybe in the bathroom. So she was offended that all of a sudden that this girl would come up and stand up for her and say anything to be inclusive, whereas under any other circumstances, she would not have. And that's something I want to talk about. Because I feel like we tend to get really, really stuck in our circles and very, very exclusive, which doesn't leave a lot of room for change, which, let's face it, you guys, that's the only thing that's really, really predictable. Change is going to happen whether you like it or not. It's just a matter of when. All right. So when I look at these three people, it's a popular girl, it's a loudmouth, and it's a supporter. When I look at these three people, I see that all of them could get along if they really wanted to, but there are a lot of things in the dialogue that gave away how they thought, their mentality itself. The popular girl obviously thought she was safe, she was popular, she had her circle of friends. Once the secret was revealed, it kind of destroyed her bubble. It burst her bubble as to whether she had friends or not, people supported her or not, how they saw her, how she was regarded, and suddenly she felt very alone and alienated from the rest of the world and felt like she was on display all of a sudden, almost like a zoo animal. Now, the loudmouth character seems to think that the popular girl had put herself on a pedestal when in fact the way she said things, you can tell that the loudmouth had actually decided for herself that this popular girl is better than she is. Otherwise she wouldn't have come out as jealous as she did. She talked about how, oh, you think you're better than us and you think that, you were beyond reproach, no one can get to you, you're like that high up. It's only in her own mind, the loudmouth's mind, that she's decided this person is this untouchable. The supporter, unfortunately, didn't really notice the popular girl or noticed her and left her be, like, kind of like kept in her own lane and stayed away from things until she realized she had something in common with the popular girl once the secret came out. At that point, she felt like, oh my gosh, you know what? I feel terrible for her. I know what she's going through. Let me at least shut the loudmouth up. I don't need anything in return. I'm just doing it because it's the right thing to do. But it was also taken out of context because the popular girl saw the supporter as, oh, well, what are you coming to my rescue for all of a sudden? Like, we've known each other all through school and you've never said 2 words to me. What makes you think you can talk to me now? It's that kind of mentality, though, that keeps us all segregated in our own little cliques. If you notice, anyone can go through a traumatic experience. It doesn't have to be rape. It doesn't have to be murder. It doesn't have to be experiencing someone else's suicide. It could be any of those things. The point being that if it changes your world in a significant manner where you kind of have to start from the ground up all over again, it is trauma to you because you have to go through a cycle of grief to mourn the loss of what was normal to you, and then you have to adjust to a new normal. It's kind of what we're all doing right now with this whole COVID quarantine circuit breaker situation. What was normal before COVID is not going to be normal after. Even if we do go back to this full swing of operations where bars open back up, where we get to go, visiting with people and sit in a restaurant and eat rather than do takeaway, it's not going to be the same. There are still going to be measures in place just to make sure that this outbreak doesn't come back. And also to make sure going forward that they were a little more careful about the way we interact with each other as far as personal hygiene is concerned. Okay. So when we talk about situations where people segregate themselves away from other people, we need to still understand that it is possible. It is possible that they're going through some kind of strife, whether it's physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. I don't care. The point being that if you feel like something is difficult and more than you're capable of managing, it's going to feel like trauma to you. This is why Mastin Kipp talks about big T and little t. It could be major trauma or it could be small trauma, but the point is, it's still trauma to you. There's still something that you need to learn to manage. It's a new skill set that you need to kind of discover for yourself so you can manage the situation itself. But it's in those moments that we need to understand that this is why mental health needs to be more of a priority in all of our lives. Mental illness, it's not actually an illness. You don't catch mental illness. You don't suddenly contract it from someone. It's not contagious. It is simply whether you are capable of managing what's happening to you or do you feel overwhelmed by it. And if you feel overwhelmed by it, what do you do? What do you do to manage or cope with the overwhelming feeling? Some of us go into depression. Some of us go into anxiety phases. Some of us turn to alcohol because it numbs you out a little bit. Some of us turn to TV because, you know what, while you're watching TV, you don't have to deal with the rest of the world. You can pretend that you're immersed here. Back before Netflix, we used to read. Some of us read and we wouldn't stop until we finished the book. Why? Because we immerse ourselves into somebody else's world, and we could put our reality on hold for a little bit. It was on pause for a little bit. There are a lot of people who will sleep through anything. Why? Because being awake means you're going to have to face some kind of drama, and you're not ready for that. So what would you rather do? You'd rather sleep it away. Some people eat to cope with the emotions that they're feeling. Why? Because when they're eating, they feel good in the moment. So if you notice, every one of us have coping mechanisms. You didn't smoke when you were born. You learned to smoke. Somehow or another that relieved some kind of anxiety for you. You either developed an oral fixation where you had to have gum or smoke in your mouth, or you constantly learned to do something. Some people have OCD tendencies where they have to keep tapping, or they have like a pattern that they have to repeat to make themselves feel calm. It is not an ailment that you can catch. It is not something that is bad. It is simply a system that you've discovered for yourself that helps you remain calm. It helps you from doing something crazy. Crazy meaning that out the way it could hurt other people or hurt yourself. You understand? So this is why I feel like people really need to understand that compassion comes from the victim and from regular onlookers as well. You need to be able to approach everybody with a sense of compassion because you have no idea the thoughts that are running through someone else's head. In the situation of Control Z, those three characters that I named off for you, the popular girl, the loudmouth, and the supporter, each of them felt some kind of way about the other person. For the supporter to be able to shut up the loudmouth, she needed to put the loudmouth in a situation so she would understand what the popular girl was going through. The popular girl was not used to being made fun of. She was beyond regular people, where she was like untouchable almost, right? So when that secret came out, all of a sudden the loudmouth decided, oh, well, guess what? You're not so untouchable, are you? You're just like one of us. To which the supporter had to step in and say, hey, you're not beyond reproach either. And if you start making fun of her, what's to stop anyone else from making fun of you? You got plenty to be made fun of for too. So she put her in her place and she helped her identify the fact that, you know what? You probably need to stop talking so much because you could be in her shoes very quickly as well. To which, of course, the popular girl was very offended. She could have said thank you and kept it moving, but no, she was offended. Why? Because she's still in a space where she's in strife, she's in stress, she's worried about what's going on and how people are receiving her, how people are processing the information about her. She's not sure what that new normal is. She's still in that cycle of grief that's only just begun. So where she could have made an ally all of a sudden, she chose to push her away as well because she doesn't know with what intention that person is actually coming to her. It could have been with the purest of intentions. It could have been just to get her out of a situation where someone was targeting her. And it could have been for personal gain later on down the road. We don't know. But the point being, she chose to push everyone away. And that's something all of you should be familiar with because at some point or another, I guarantee every last one of you have pushed people away for fear that you couldn't trust your senses, you didn't know who to trust, you weren't sure if long-term friends would continue to be long-term friends now that they knew more about you. So, once again, the message here is compassion. Please, for God's sake, be as compassionate as you can be. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. If you can lend help without the attachment or the expectation that they will receive your help. Because just because you give advice doesn't mean the person will take it. They have every right to reject it or accept it. It's up to them. But if you're going to give with love. Give with no expectation, no attachment to the outcome. Just do what you know is right because maybe somewhere along the line someone did a kindness for you one time. So please, if you have a chance, take a look at Control Z. I think it's a really great series that will open up a lot of conversations. And do stay tuned because I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot more podcast episodes dealing with some of the situations that pop up in the series itself. So while Baby Girl asked me a bunch of questions, and that's where I decided I need to do a podcast episode, I'm sure all of you have your own comments and concerns. Please drop them in the comments as always. And if you have a specific situation you want help with, please do DM me. This is what I do for a living. It's what I love. And I really, really, really want to make sure that you understand my entire goal here is to help you find peace in your life, help you to love yourself, help you to accept that change is inevitable and there are better ways to cope than numbing yourself out. Because ultimately, if you numb yourself out, guess what? When the numbing wears off, your problems are still there. You guys, I love you and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.